Welcome to our weekly Timeless Principles for Extraordinary Living with Dr. Alex. Dr. Alex believes that you were born for extraordinary exploits, to be an exhibition of divine abundance. Today's session, as all others, will inspire you to experience extraordinary living. Join Dr. Alex now.
Welcome to our Timeless Principles with me, Dr. Alex. I am so excited that once again we are meeting and we have selected our channels. Well, thank you so much to those who have subscribed and those who continue to like us. We want to encourage you, keep sharing with others and communicate and comment. And we are so much pleased that in this way you are doing a great work. Well, last couple of weeks we were doing a Timeless Principle song. We are now back to our series 818, series that we've termed The Thinking Beings, which is a life-transforming series. So I'm excited that you are joining me as we engage episode 6 of 818. I want to just remind you that we are talking about the thinking process. The thinking process. Today, I will get into the first stage of changing mindset. So we will call this one changing mindset number 1. Please remember, as much as I can talk about many things, I want you to remember that we are thinking beings. Remember that we are thinking beings. In other words, we are just a lump of meat that is hanging. We are actually thinking beings living inside a biological container. In the last session, I dealt with a couple of things, but the central discussion in episode 5 was the question that says, what makes me to think the way I think? In other words, we were asking ourselves the fundamental question, what are the forces that works inside of me? Why do I think the way I think? What happens inside that actually creates our thought process? This is what we engaged last time. We called this thing that makes me think the way I think, we called it the mindset. The mindset. That's the terminology, and I described it in the last session. In the way to see it again is that you could have 2 or 3 or 4 and on as many people observing the same thing. They could be observing this phone here. They observe the same thing, yet they respond to the same observation very differently. And we said in the last episode, differences in their response is not informed by what they look at, but it's informed by their mindset, but by what is inside their biological container. Remember that none of those responses are bad or wrong or whatever. They are simply just responses that are driven by their internal being. They are driven by their mindset. That's really what we were explaining. We also noted a couple of things in the last episode, which I just want to emphasize. We said in the last episode, we produce results from our actions. In other words, our behavior, our actions is what produces results. Yet, our actions are informed by our thoughts, and those thoughts are generated by the mindset. I want you to see it again. Think of it this way. You have a mindset that is responsible for generating our thoughts. Then our thoughts inform our actions. Then our actions produces the result. So there exists, here is an example that I want you to think about. An example just to show you how people react differently. I make a statement to you today, and I believe in this statement, and the statement just say, in the universe, there exists abundance of money. That's a statement. I believe it. It's there. I see it. I visualize it each day. There's just abundance of money, but it's not visible to everybody. Now, I give you that statement, and let's say there's two sitting here, and I expose you to the statement that in the universe there exists abundance of money. Now, what will happen is some people will be excited to jump and say, I want to possess my portion of the abundance. I wish that is you. They will say, I want to jump out portion of this abundance, while others will never jump out. They will only just dream about it and never possess their portion of the abundance. Now, there may be many reasons why one group will jump and say, I'm going to go for it, and another group will not go for it. But the core that drives that energy, possess your portion, that drives that laziness to sit down, is in their mindset. That's where the difference is. Both those who will go and possess their portion of the abundance, and those who will sit down and nothing about their portion of abundance, they've gone through the same process. When they were exposed to the information, when they were exposed to what I said, they began a process of generating thoughts. They say, okay, I've heard what he said, and then thoughts were generated. It happened so fast. And then those thoughts produced actions. And then those actions produce the results. It's important for us to understand that lead actions. So hear it again. Both those, one side they went to possess, the other side they didn't go to possess. It's because of the thoughts they generated. Both of them generated thoughts, and both of them ran and followed the actions that came from their thoughts. It is just that the one group that possessed their abundance were able to generate thoughts that leads to actions, and actions that possess it. See, having an abundance or not having it has less to do with whether the abundance exists or not. It has more to do with the thoughts we produce, and therefore the actions we do. In fact, it has less to do with lack of actions. You will find that everybody returns home in the evening very tired, but some return home with abundance and others return home with lack, yet both of them were busy. It is because of the nature of thought. So here is the number one key that I want to emphasize as we talk about the process of changing the mindset. To make great changes in our results, we must make fundamental changes in our mindset. Don't try to change the results and do nothing about what fundamentally produced those results. We have to go back and go beyond hoping that things will just change on their own, but become deliberate. And by becoming deliberate, we make the changes at where it matters. We change the mindset. Here is the good news. Changing the mindset cannot be outsourced. It is an activity that demands personal participation. You cannot hand it over to somebody and say, hey, can you just take my mindset and change it for me? It cannot be outsourced. It demands personal participation. Now, I just want to go through 4 key steps that are necessary to change the mindset. Again, I won't go to the details here because these are just short clips that we do. If you really want, you join our programs and then we go a little bit more. But I'll just highlight a few steps that are necessary to changing the mindset. Remember, it's no use to try and change the results. I need to go and change at fundamental level. And at fundamental level, is at the mindset. It is what's happening inside me, not so much what's happening outside. So, 4 key steps that I want to leave with you to think about how to change the mindset. Number 1, you've got to identify the area in which you want to change your results. In other words, this is the area, maybe it's a relationship. This is the area that I want to change my results. Maybe if it's a student, it's academic performance. Maybe if it's a businessman, it's projects and opportunities. Maybe whatever the area is, you first have to say, I want changes in my results in this particular area, and consequently I will need to work on my mindset that relates to this particular area. Remember, friends, you would have a particular mindset that relates to wealth creation, a different mindset that relates to relationship, a different. So that's why I talk of mindsets. So you need to identify the area. Once you identify the area in which you want to change your results, and therefore it's mindset. Secondly, you've got to locate. Remember, this is a deliberate action. Locate something in your mindset. Either locate some assumptions, locate some beliefs that make you produce the results you don't like. We call those, as I said in the last episode, the limiting beliefs. In other words, I want to produce these results, but I'm failing to produce those results. The answer is, I've got certain assumptions and beliefs in my mind that leads me to actions which do not produce the results I want. So those limiting beliefs must be identified. In other words, when we talking about changing the mindset, you will not change what you do not identify. If you do not locate what it is in my mind. I went through this a long time. I had no problem with the mindset of getting academic qualifications. I could go to school, get a degree, and I'm excited about it. But at some point, I had a difficulty with the issue of becoming rich. I had a lot of mindset that came from my religious background, and those mindsets were limiting my attempts of being rich. While on one area, I was moving with speed. I had no difficulty. I have a degree, a master's degree, a PhD. No difficulty, because there were no limiting beliefs that part of me. But there were serious limiting beliefs when it comes to getting wealthy. And therefore, I needed to identify what is it in my assumptions, in my beliefs. That's why one of my books, I deal with that. What is it in my beliefs that I need to change? So number 1, I locate the area where I want my results to change. Number 2, I locate the thing in my mindset that is limiting or causing me to fail. Number 3, this is important, select new assumptions, new beliefs that I to introduce in my mindset in order to replace the limiting beliefs. Now, this is very important. The reason my mindset produces the thoughts it does, it is because in its database, it has assumptions and beliefs that it uses. Now, I need those beliefs out of my database, but the mindset cannot be empty. I need to introduce the assumptions and beliefs that will help me get the thoughts to the actions that gives the results that I want. And we call those enabling assumptions or beliefs. Now I've got the 2 categories. I've got what I call limiting assumptions or beliefs. Then I've got enabling assumptions or beliefs. These are the things that my mindset uses to produce my thoughts, which then produce my actions, which then produce my results. So once I've identified the 2, then the real work begins. That's where the mentors come in, because now I need to engage the process of changing my mindset. I know what needs to get out. I know what needs to come in. But now I must engage the process of changing the mindset. I want you to see this. It's absolutely simple. What needs to be done to change a mindset is absolutely simple. Yet many people are not doing it because it is not easy. You will appreciate that the fact that it is simple does not just mean it is easy. The real crunch of it is engaging the process. So I want to just challenge you, even if you haven't started on the actions, the results you want to change, and therefore the actions, and therefore the thoughts, and therefore the mindset, just influence you to changing one thing which you can do as a small exercise. For the next 21 days, I want you to introduce a word into your mindset. I want you to introduce a particular word into your database. This word is a simple word, is the word great. The word great. If you're listening, just say that word with me, great. I want you to introduce that word in your vocabulary. The easiest way to introduce that word is when somebody greets you, get into the habit of saying, I am great. You see, our vocabulary are simple and outward expression of the state of our mind. When we hear the words you release, we can tell what's going on in your mind. Because our brain is designed to use the words we speak as inputs to what we call the neuronal modulation. We're not getting into neuroscience here. So just believe me for now and just try to introduce this word. Wherever you find an opportunity, somebody says something to you, say, great. Somebody asks you, how are you doing today? You simply say, I'm great. You see, our past has trained us that when we respond, when people are greeting us, when people are asking us, we must always tell them the real state of our circumstances. Yet the principle I want to introduce to you is that that's not necessary. You can tell them, I'm great, even if you're not feeling great, because you are telling them the state that you want the mind to work on. It does not always feel rich to say, I am great. Yet if you want to have it, you will always say it even if you don't feel it, because you are giving your brain some tools to create what you want to feel and you want to have. So I want to encourage you for the next 21 days, introduce this word, I'm great. I'm great. I remember when I was starting to introduce it, it wasn't very easy. I came from a culture that whenever somebody greets you, you have to minimize yourself, you have to minimize everything. You know, when you say I'm great, it sounds like you are being pompous. But I then learned that actually I don't need to be minimizing things. I just need to speak what my brain must work on. It got easy over time. I use the word I'm great, and I hope then you can use the next one, I'm awesome. But take one for 21 days, keep saying it. Don't make them too many, because the process, there is a process of doing this. Okay, I want, as usual, I always end with a kingdom scenario of the thing I was talking about. I want to use this kingdom scenario from a very popular story. It's a story that anybody who's read the book, The Constitution of the Kingdom of Heaven, what some people call the Bible, if you've read the book, you would know this case study. The particular line I want to use for just engaging this, then I let you free for this evening or for this time. It's a line in Mark chapter 5, verse 28. In the NET Bible, it reads as follows. For she kept saying, if only I touch his clothes, I will be healed. For she kept saying, if only I touch his clothes, I will be healed. The book doesn't tell us how many times she kept saying that. Maybe one day, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe more. But what we understand, she didn't say it just once, but she kept saying. She kept saying. In other words, she kept speaking to her mind. And when she kept saying this, her brain was replacing things in her database of the mindset. And as the brain was replacing, new things being born. You see, she kept saying these words to herself until change happened within her. When the change happened, her actions changed. She had to take a courageous action. If you know the story, you know the culture of the time, you will understand why this action was person under her circumstances. She had strong motivation for the change. She had suffered for 12 years. The book tells us she had suffered for 12 years. She had spent all the money she had. It says with doctors. She had been made a social outcast. I want to say these words. When you've gone through a struggle on a particular area, on a particular issue for a long time, it is not an indicator that you must give up. It is simply an indicator that this must be strong enough motivation to rise up, and what you must do, change the database in the mind so that your mind has something to work on. She kept speaking words that enabled thoughts, that enabled confidence, that enabled bravery, that enabled strength and courage to act against her all odds. But how did it begin? By using words which are tools for the brain, and then the brain would then create thoughts, and the thoughts would give confidence, bravery, strength, and then she would rise and take action. The reason you and I in our generation were able to read her story is because she made change. It's because she produced different results. I always ask people, what changes are you doing today? Let me ask you today, what changes are you doing today that future generations will remember you for? What will they read about you that you changed so that they too can learn? We are reading about this woman because, number one, she spoke words into her mind. She kept saying them. She kept saying them until these words created a new mindset, until the mindset produced new thoughts, and the new thoughts produce new actions, and the action changed the story. I want to say this to us. There is no situations that will not change once you change your mindset, because it's not about the situation outside. It's not about what you observe outside. It's more about what's going on inside you. Let me say these words that I've said over and over again. You and I, we are thinking beings. It is when we change what we contain in us that our results will change. Remember that we are thinking beings. It's not the external things that will change our story. It's our internal being, and that begins with changing the mindset. I'm so glad that we had this opportunity together to engage what I call the first basics of changing the mindset. And I outlined those 4 steps. And for this session, we just were outlining that. But you are responsible. I am responsible for changing my mindset. It is doable. You can do it. You will do it. That's why I'm so excited when I think about the book, our constitution. It says the people who know their God shall be strong and shall carry out great exploits. It's now your turn to carry out great exploits. Thank you so much us the whole session. We truly, truly love you. And I want you to remember that you are awesome. See you at the top.
Thank you for connecting with us on Extraordinary Exploits with Dr. Alex. We value your connection. Join us every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central African Time. And remember to invite others. Experience extraordinary living.